Let's give a warm welcome to composer Ludwig Göransson, Angela Bassett, and writer-director Ryan Coogler. How you doing?
Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming out on this rainy
Welcome,
evening.
and welcome, Ryan. I'm so glad you guys are here. Ryan, I've seen your film a couple of times now, and I'm amazed about the editing of the film where you allow, you leave plenty of room for people to express themselves and for mourning to happen in the film. Can you tell us about how you were able to balance that aspect?
Yeah, I work with three great editors on this one: Michael Shaver, Jennifer Lame, and Kelly Dixon. And they were great collaborators. We had, great performers that are very familiar with the characters. And I think that, the time was helpful. A big part of the film is like the concept of mourning. And the chief relationship in the movie is a mother and a daughter, and the mother is trying to teach the daughter a mourning technique, and a philosophy towards how to navigate this inevitable emotion of grief. And mourning takes time, and it should, So I was glad that we were able to have patience with those parts of the film.
And Angela, I was struck by the fact that he mentioned that it's a mother-daughter story ultimately, and the fact that we're seeing a black woman, a queen, and she's a black mother, and a daughter. How did you feel about the role and taking this on?
Very hopeful, very proud. When he called and he mentioned that a great deal of responsibility, like, you're like, you cannot fail. But I have had those. I mean, we all have, but I have certainly had my mother, my auntie, women in the community who've been that for me. So it's just an opportunity to step up and pay.
But you were aware of the fact that here's this major action, Marvel story, and then all
I couldn't think of like major Marvel, and Ryan does. What's that terminology that you use? You say we have never seen a four quadrant. What is it? Well, he's the filmmaker, he's the auteur, he's the director, he's the visionary. So, a four major quadrant. That
centers a black mom and daughter.
Yeah. So I'm not thinking those thoughts. I'm just thinking this is my daughter and she's going through a time. That's. You just boil it right down to its essence and tell the story. Leave that four quadrant, up to somebody who can handle it.
Yeah. Ludwig, I'm so glad you're here. This is a totally immersive job you've done. The score and the soundtrack go together. Can you tell us about it? And you've done scores before, and you've done soundtracks, but is this the first time that you do both together?
Yeah, it's actually the first time we were able to do something like this. And, I've been working with Ryan for about 14 years now. And the one thing that how we became friends was we started talking about music, and we started talking about songs, and that's always something that we strongly connected with and always talked about for all the projects we've done together, how we can combine songs and the score of the movie and try to make it as immersive as possible. And we did a little bit of that on Creed in the montage. We have when there's like a rappers coming in and with a big score moment. But for this movie, we kind of did it all the way, like from beginning to end. There's songs that goes into the score. There's scores that goes into the songs. There's elements from the songs in the score. There's elements from the score in the songs. And the only way we were able to do that was to create both mediums during the same time. And a lot of it was recorded. Half of it was recorded in Mexico, with some incredible Mexican artists, and the other half was recorded in Nigeria, in Lagos. And we went both. We flew to Lagos together and worked there.
Yeah, well, I'll come back to you, Ryan. The whole, as I mentioned, I've seen it a couple of times. There's so much water in this film, but what is so beautiful about it is that at some point or another, all the characters are submerged in water. And then I kept thinking about the characters themselves, the psychology of the characters, that they're in mourning and they're like, drowning. Can you? Oh my God! I'm glad that you're agreeing, because I go like, am I overthinking this?
No, you're nailing it. Yeah.
Baptism. How about that?
I mean, yeah, film is it's so many things. Us up here, we dedicate our lives to it. Y'all at a film festival, I know y'all all about it, but it's a form of entertainment, but it's also a language, So we trying to communicate these things, these ideas, through the image and through the actors' performances and through the lines. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Like grief often is talked about in terms of water. You'll hear people say, I was at work. If somebody just lost somebody close to them and they at work, days later, they say, I got hit with a wave of grief. I never saw it coming, and you had to let it pass. Go let it take you where it was going to take you, and then get back to your day. Or when you missing someone intensely, you can feel like you're drowning. Or people say, I'm feeling blue today. Like these references that kind of come from water, and I think that like grief as an emotion can be so vast, and like all encompassing. But there's also a beauty to it. Because you can't grieve something that you didn't love, that's actually like the best allegory for it. So it just made sense for the film, and all of the actors, like you said, had to get in the water and had scenes where they were completely submerged in it, and Angela did a beautiful job. I was really hurt, in that scene y'all saw. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
Angela, you knock it out of the park. I mean, your performance is unbelievable. I kept thinking of Shakespeare, the scene with Guerrera, where you actually you love each other, you have a history, and then all of a sudden you have to make an executive decision. And did you think of the role in those terms of the theatricality, the heightened level of the role?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my first love is the stage, and I trained in conservatory in stage and with Shakespeare, and that's one of my favorite playwrights and type of works to do, because it's so passionate and yet it's so literary. The words and how you can, how you could use the words. You call, you don't. Just the words he would pick, and how don't, and where that lies in your body. So when I got the script, and you're seeing that you get more than, a lot of times you gotta do a TV show week to week, and sometimes you get a line, and then another line, or it'll be a 4-page scene, you got 2 lines, so to be able to just build and really just traverse through an emotion and through a thought and what's going on, it was such a treat. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's one line you deliver that I'll never forget. I'm supposed to have all this power, but I'm a woman with no family. It's like, whoa. and and when you deliver it, there's you all the nuances of that line, you hit them.
Yeah, you can feel like you can have everything. You have all the resources, this great land, all the power, but what ultimately is most important, the relationship, these children, this family. That's, we fool ourselves, but this ultimately, it's, the family, and when people talk about, oh, if I would give it all away for one more day, all of that we, when we lend ourselves to think about. And fortunately, we had the luxury, of like a couple of weeks or a month before the first day of filming, because a lot of times you get these jobs and it's like, and when you start tomorrow, you'll be like, oh, trying to catch up. But we had the luxury of leaning into it and discovering it and thinking about how I would, how I would process this and how I would want to, attack this and just be free with it, so that on the day, whatever Ryan or your co-stars throw at you, you're available. And that's ultimately what you want, to be available to the moment, and to your director.
Well, and as I said, you knock it out of the park with it. Ludwig, I didn't get a chance to talk to you in private, but I'm from Latin America. I was born in Panama, Central America, and one of the things that I was struck listening to your score is that there is all these Mayan instruments that you incorporate into the score. Can you tell us about the authenticity and all these different Mayan instruments and Central America instruments that you add to the score?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that makes Ryan such an incredible director is that he involves me very, very early in the process, even before they start shooting. When he first writes scripts, he sends it to me, and then we start having conversations. We start talking about the script, and obviously, in this movie, reading about the Namor, the Telecons, Ryan was very adamant that, this story is inspired by Mayan culture, and what can we do to get the music sounding as close to that as possible? And which was a real challenge, because that Mayan culture, Mayan music was forcibly erased. So we don't know how the music sounds like. So that's why I went to Mexico City, and I worked with some music archaeologists, experts in the field of Mayan music, and they've been for years working on reimagining what the Mayan music could have sounded like. They found instruments in the graves and they look at the flutes, and they can see the holes of the flute and where the fingerprints are and which holes were used the most, so they can kind of reimagine the intervals that was played. And so while I'm there in Mexico, and, recording these incredible musicians and recording also artists that sing, contemporary artists, that rappers and singers, and I'm constantly sending music back to Ryan while he's shooting, and he's on set and sometimes plays it for his actors, and we're constantly having a conversation throughout the whole process. And then, I'm also very lucky because, when I come back to LA and trying to put this all together in the studio, and I start seeing the footage, and, we have, it's in the beginning, it's a little bit scary because, I don't know, how is it going to fit? But then when you see the performances, electric performances, like what Angelo's and the whole cast is so incredible. So it was kind of just magic to see and hear how that music was just organically fitting on the screen. Yeah.
Ryan, I want to ask you a technical question, and it's about working with your DP, Durald. And you guys chose to shoot in anamorphic lenses, even when we're underwater. And when I was watching the film, I felt like there was kind of like a dream state, visually. Why you're making me self-conscious?
No, you're really good. That's all. Yeah.
Okay.
You picking up on everything. Yeah.
Okay, good. I started sweating there for a second. Tell us about that visual choice. Even when you guys go underwater, there is that anamorphic.
So our cinematographer's name is Autumn Durard Arcapar. She's amazingly gifted and very technically skilled. And when we first met for the job, we talked about whether we would shoot spherical or anamorphic on our lens choices. And this was my first time using anamorphic lenses and to tell a story. But I was excited about it because the things that actually had scared me away from shooting anamorphic before made sense for this movie, because again with the water motifs, but you can be in a fog of grief, like where when you lose somebody close to you, you feel like you're dreaming for a few days. You know what I mean? Like this can't be real. Images aren't as bright, and maybe there's some warping, along the edges, which is all the things that anamorphic lenses do. Depth of field becomes shallower, and that state is where everybody is in this movie. Everybody, the Wakandans, and even Namor and Natalia Camille, who exist in this space physically. So that was a very conscious choice on me and Autumn's behalf, and I think it worked. I think it worked well for us.
Yeah, and then to add to the level of complexity, when we're underwater in Talokan, red, you chose the production design as red, and then underwater red is hard to capture.
Yeah.
Tell us about the choice of the red and.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So.
Thought this was going to be an easy Q&A.
No.
It's like
it actually is easy, like because you so good at it. But yeah. So wow, we getting deep. So we had a great cultural consultant who actually teaches here. His name is Dr. Gerardo Aldana. He teaches in Santa Barbara, and y'all know him? Oh, yeah.
That's him?
No.
Oh, okay.
They know him. No, they nodding because they know him. Yeah, yeah. So he's amazing, and he was kind of like our guru when it came to the Talakanil. And he would talk about how like a lot of it's the same thing with a lot of like archaeology and things. Like when you see Roman statues, you think of like the ivory look, but in reality they were painted at the time. And it's the same thing in Mesoamerica. Like these temples, these places, they had elaborate paint on them. Like when they were being used. And we wanted, and red was a paint that would come up a lot. With color science and how light is refracted underwater, red is actually one of the colors that goes away the quickest. It goes to brown at a very quick depth. But if you put a light source close to something that's painted red, then you can actually read the saturation. So it was a big deal for Namor when he built the light under there, so that they could actually see the red paint even underwater, if that makes sense.
No, of course.
Yeah.
Angela, tell us about you working with the character. With Shuri, the first film was all this back and forth between tradition and technology, and the second film, if I get it right, is all about wisdom versus smartness, and tell us about navigating that dynamic with Shuri and working with the actress.
Letitia is a wonderful actress to work with. I mean, she is smart and she is fun, and it was lovely to have to have history, with Panther 1, and to see her grow and to mature, into Panther too. Her character, she is a young lady. But also, I guess in this day and age, you know, throwing out the old. I have teenagers myself, and it's like, oh, that's old, that's past, that's, you know, I don't know how many times I hear that, you know. And my husband just has to say, just let it go, let it go, let it go. So there were those moments when we were in the scenes where she's like, oh, it's just a construct of your mind, and this, that, and the other. It's like, just let it go, okay? You know, be patient. She'll come around to wisdom with experience. You know, there's experience that she needs. But I guess as a character, I'm trying to help navigate her through what I see is a block, what I see is denial, not going through the grieving process, having no regard for the ways of old that can be helpful to her, or just listening to her mom, you know, just being busy, 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 going, and not taking time for to grieve properly when I know this is the most important person to her. So working with her was wonderful. You know, we had challenges on this movie, just emotional heart challenges, you know, having, you know, lost someone that was so dear to all of us, and especially to her. They were particularly close, you know. Yeah. So a lot of, it's nice when you can show up and use those things in your life and put them in your art and amplify it in a beautiful way. So that was called upon. That's I think, a big reason why this film is so impactful, because the human element is so real.
Yeah.
The things that we deal with, the type of people that we are, who he's assembled, the type of individuals he's assembled, who all just show up to, you know, serve the story.
Did you guys feel that the process helped with the, you know, with the mourning process of losing Chadwick?
I think so, you know, because he went on. He went on. He, you know, to recall and to remember, I mean, particularly in Panther 1, the Warrior Falls. You know, we work in these French hours, which means non-stop. You don't stop for lunch, you know. If you got a minute, there's some food over there, go grab it. But, you know, it was like they had us in warrior, you know, walls and steps and steeples and, you know, to get to this lake, and it was impossible to go down and get food. But, I mean, the way he and Michael, and the way the work that they had to do, and we're just at the falls, you know. But the work that they had to do that day, and every day, when we came back to Wakanda, and the work that we had to do without them, you realize, like, yeah, it's heavy. Oh, it's heavy, but we have to do it, and we have to do it in honor of him and the type of work artist that he was and person that he was. So there are no excuses. There are no shortcuts. Just complete and utter excellence, you know. And this one, you got it on today? Yeah. Every day he came up to you, there was Chadwick's face, like, come on, you know, urging you on, which is beautiful.
Ludwig, there are no needle drops in this movie. I mean, we're used to watching movies where they use songs and we use little parts of the song. Instead, we hear the whole song as an entirety. You know, tell us about that choice. And
yeah, so every single word you hear, every little instruments, every single word, everything was written for the movie. And you know, like I said, the beginning of the journey was in Mexico, and when I went there, you know, no information of the movie was out. So when I started, I had a playlist that I listened to every day before I went to Mexico, to listen to voices and artists, and just imagining what voices and what singers and what type of artists would work with certain scenes. But right before I got to Mexico City, I booked sessions with the artists that I really thought would work with certain scenes. And I remember when I was stepped into the studio, a lot of them were like, when I told them I'm working on Black Panther, a lot of them were like, why are you here? Why are you here in Mexico? Because they didn't know the story yet. But obviously I had the script with me, and as soon as we sat down and started reading about the script and about this subject, with history, and it's such a complicated history, and it's also a subject that I feel like, like we're talking about the music that was, taken from them, that, it's a conversation that maybe some of the artists that I haven't had before. So it was a subject that was very passionate for the people that I was working with.
You also, Ludwig, take us from grief to celebration in the music. Can you tell us about that journey?
Yeah. So also, if you listen close to the music, it's almost all the music is driven through and with the human voice, which is one of the most powerful instrument, and especially the female. A lot of it is the female voice. Because I feel like that's the first thing you hear as a unborn human in the womb is your mom's voice, and that is also what's propelling the music and the score in the beginning and the first half of the movie, especially also because it's also something that you have this melody sung. With a beautiful vocal voice. It's sung by this artist Thames, and it continues throughout the movie in some crucial scenes, and in the very end it develops into this beautiful song that Rihanna is singing.
And Brian, I got to ask you about Namor. He's not a villain. We're used to seeing Marvel movies where it's just a clear-cut villain, and you created this nuanced, he's an antagonist. He's going against the grain, but he's three-dimensional. We totally understand. He's going through trauma himself. Can you tell us about the importance of making him not a black and white villain?
Absolutely. We knew that we wanted to explore this character for a while, and it's a character that existed in publishing for a long time. People are arguing he's like the first Marvel comic book character,
But it was ambiguous, his background. We never knew.
Yeah, it was always ambiguous. But what's funny is he never really seemed like he was just like a white guy either, even in the books. He was always drawn with very dark hair, and he always looked different from the characters that he was interacting with, and as a character, he saw himself as different. Being from the water, and there was this there was like a conflict there always, even in the books, and we knew that we wanted to explore that in this film, and we wanted to open up the film to another cultural perspective that was still in the conversation with the same themes. One of the major themes of the first film is this idea of colonization, of what can be lost through this thing that human beings have done to each other and continue to do, and we did a lot of studies on just the concept of colonization when we were making the first film. Joe Robert Cole, my co-writer, and myself, and in two places that come up a lot are the continent of Africa and here in the Americas, and for us, we knew that Namor was gonna have to be a character that was human above all else. He would be an antagonist, like you said, but not a villain. He would be somebody who kind of wants the same things the Wakandans want, but circumstance brings them into contact with each other and eventually conflict with each other. But we wanted it to be respectful, We wanted audiences to kind of understand where this character is coming from. And for us, like, that was the ultimate test. You know, like if at the end of the film, when these two groups of people are fighting, you know, we want the audience to be hoping for them to stop. You know, like that's what the audience should be rooting for in our minds. You know, like these people will stop clashing and like maybe figure it out. You know, so that's what we were after. And you were talking about trauma, like, you know, he's a character who's very old. You know, in publishing and in the film, but this idea that you know, with grief, time, you'll get over it with time. You know, it's kind of a lie. You know, like if you know people who are who are older, who've experienced things, and oftentimes if those things affect them, you know, they could be 90 years old, 100 years old. They'll talk about this one moment, and it's like they back at that age where it happened again. You know, so that's what we were kind of exploring with that character more than anything. I thought Tenoch just did a beautiful job.
Yeah. And last question, I'm going to ask Angela, the fact that Black Panther was such an impactful film, and now you've done a second one. I mean, I think your films have proven that people expect more than entertainment. They want to, yes, entertain, but they want to think and to be moved at the same time. Can you tell us from your perspective, how do you feel about the impact of what you guys have done with Black Panther?
I just feel as if it's one of those phenomenal aspects of my entire career. It's just an apex. It's a paradigm shift. It's a shift. It's that the whole world has come to, you know, appreciate the story, love the story, root for the story, and get so much from it, that it's so human, you know, to see these faces, you know, black and brown, and for it to be embraced the way that it has been. But ultimately, it's a story of humanity, and like Ryan was saying, that when people have beef, that maybe they can find a way to come together, that's maybe the sort of, you know, cryptic message that's up in there in that entertainment, you know, in all this entertainment. And but yeah, I'm extraordinarily proud of it. And will there be another? What next? What next? Well, you know, hope's the expectation of something good, so I'll keep hoping. But it's like, it truly is top of the mountain.
Well, we're blessed that you guys have made this movie, and thank you for being here. You guys are amazing, the three of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.